And we are back, and it is a dream come true for me here at the Weekly Show with David J. Maloney. We're switching roles a little bit.
And then they intro me with the Joker. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
Of course they did. Nothing to do with that, I promise. Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions today. You're normally the one asking all the questions, but I think people need to know a little bit because I found out some stuff today that I didn't know.
Okay.
You're originally from New York?
Well, I would think I've got a little bit of the accent.
A little bit.
But I grew up in Woodstock, New York, the Woodstock, New York.
As in Music Festival Woodstock.
As a Music Festival Woodstock. And if you go back to Woodstock, everybody still looks like they just walked out of a Grateful Dead concert.
You know, you kind of give me that hippie vibe. I always saw it. And I also found out that you weren't originally heading into law. You got a degree, or you were in school for applied arts?
Well, actually, I always wanted to go into law. When I was 13, I had to read To Kill a Mockingbird for Mrs. Wesselman's English class. And I knew at that point that I wanted to be a lawyer. I knew, and I actually did a commercial about it. I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer, and as time went by, I knew that I wanted to represent the underdog. When I was in high school, though, I ended up in an art class, and I found that I had a little, what I thought was a talent for it. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe what I could do is go into copyright law or something like that.
Right.
So I went to RIT. I got a degree in fine applied art for graphic design, but I realized as time went by, it's actually copyright patent seemed really kind of boring to me. But you know, it gave me the ability to know a little bit about marketing,
right,
which is a large part of my focus. And then as time went by, you know, like I said, I wanted to represent the underdog, and I realized that if you're going up against a big insurance company, you're pretty much the underdog. Yeah,
pretty much. And I love that you said it all came from To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch. Don't know if you know this, but my first play that I ever did on stage, I was Mayella from To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of times, I've been invited to, you know, because they do an actual live version of it in Monroeville.
Right.
And that's where, you know, she's from. And interestingly enough, a lot of people don't know that the neighbor character was based on Truman Capote.
Right.
And so I would go there to see the play. They do it, I think, every May. And after a while, they invited me to participate, usually as either a juror foreman or something.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so.
Very cool. So speaking of Monroeville and To Kill a Mockingbird, how did you end up in the South from New York?
My biological father was living in Knoxville. I applied to a bunch of law schools. I applied to Harvard, I applied to NYU, Fordham, Columbia, and then Cumberland. I got shot down by Harvard really quick. I got waitlisted by the other three, and I got accepted readily to Samford. And I got to the point where I had to meet the deadline. I sent the money to Samford, and then a week later, I got acceptance letters from each of the three. But I was already signed a lease. I had already moved down. I was already planted in Birmingham. But that put me pretty close to where my father was living in Knoxville. So frankly, I was far enough away where I wasn't under a parent's thumb, but close enough where I could put the touch on them if I needed.
Exactly, close enough for comfort.
Yeah.
I know people have to quote your ads to you all the time, your commercials. I have done it to you before. I've quoted your commercials back to you because I even said on Facebook once, I know he'll personally return my phone call. Do you have a favorite commercial?
There's a couple. I really, really like the one that my son did.
Yes.
And the way that came about was we were in New York, and I was waking up in a hotel room, and my kid would always take, he's very sentimental, and he would take on his iPad or his phone these videos of different things happening on vacations, and then he would edit them and make little movies out of them. And we would watch them back, and we would show like the first 2 hours of every day. I'd be like on the phone, I'd be working, I'd be doing this, and I'm like, well, if we could show how hard I work even when I'm on vacation, that, you know, that's kind of a side that people hadn't seen, that people didn't, you know, realize that I'm constantly, even before we do the show, while I'm getting dressed and getting ready, I'm still returning calls. And so, and in between when we break for lunch, I'm going to be returning calls. And so I thought that would be a really nifty idea. So I called my production guy and I said, what camera can I buy in New York City right now that has commercial grade resolution that a 10-year-old can use? And he told me. I bought it, I put it in the hands of my son. He filmed it all. They said there was good enough footage, you know, to use. We then put him in a sound booth. like you're used to being in, and he almost one-taked it all. I mean, he was great. He was a natural. And then he's been in a few plays and things since, and I couldn't be more proud of the kid.
Yeah, that commercial it's appealing on so many levels. We were actually talking about it at my family Thanksgiving this past weekend because it hits from a different level than just and I hate to say this, but a lot of commercials are cars in your face, and your commercials have never been that way.
Yeah,
very personal.
I try to avoid, there's a lot of attorneys who advertise results. I got him this much money, I got this much, and the other person comes on and says, he got me this much money. Well, that has nothing to do with anything.
Correct.
Every case is different, and who's to say, sure, he may have gotten you $800,000, but maybe that case was worth $2 million. Mm-hmm. Maybe he settled that case short. So don't focus on the amount that somebody says somebody got someone, because that has nothing to do with what the value of their case may have been. Their case may have been worth twice as much money, and that lawyer may have shortchanged them. So I never, ever, ever, ever advertise a specific dollar result. The only time I actually did it was in a commercial mocking people who
yes, which is my daughter's favorite commercial, by the way. Yeah. She loves that one.
Scooter on a desk on a truck.
It's her favorite, absolute favorite commercial of all commercials, not just of yours. She loves it.
It was freezing that day. It was a day, we shot that out near the battleship. And they had to put me they had to bring the scooter and the desk up, and I had to be on the top of the semi. And it was like during that cold spell in February, it was like 17 degrees outside, and the wind was coming off the thing. I had strep at the time, and all I had was a suit like this. My hands and fingers, they were like blue when I got off.
Well, now I appreciate that commercial even more.
We were up there for like 45 minutes just doing takes, and I was just winging stuff. And when I do stuff like that, I just wing it until I get a laugh from the crew. And if the crew laughs, I know that's the take.
You know that's the one. So speaking of, just to kind of wrap it all up right now, what does David J. Maloney do besides part owner of the Pensacola Ice Flyers? You're on the go with your kid all the time. What do you do in your free time?
Well, obviously the show is part of it.
Yes, and how did that come about?
Well, I was approached by the folks at Sparklight, and they wanted to do a show. We talked a little bit about it focusing on law. I kind of wanted to do something that I thought would have a little more interest that we could dabble law into. And we thought that being here, having the access to this location, and the access to, and there are a lot of people doing a lot of good in this area. And so we try to have on every show somebody that's local, that's doing something, altruistically doing something good. And we've done that. And then we try to also have some other, guests that people really want to know more about, whether they be local or, we've had some great guests. So.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you. It's been a dream.
It's fun.